Ah, doesn't seem like England can get monkey off their back. Really had a really good first innings, restricting India to through 30. Even though Rohit Sharma got off pretty well. Yeah, but nothing to really show for with the bat after they started a collapse. Welcome to the morning after with my guy Rakim ul Haq once again. Um, England and India. A lot of promises for this game, especially if you think about before the World Cup started. There were a lot of talks about this game, defending champions facing against the home nation. So did this match live up to your expectations?
Not quite. I mean, yes and no. I think this is the first game in the tournament where India were batting first.
Yeah,
So that's a good thing. India needed one of those matches where they successfully defend after, having chased
faced for
successfully all
five,
throughout
five.
the tournament.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's a good start for India, but having said all of that, of course, the Lucknow pitch, we were expecting the Lucknow pitch to behave exactly like this since
yeah.
the beginning of the tournament. It didn't. It's starting to shape up right now, and this is sort of what was expected. Having said that, of course, the English batters, they've been disappointing all throughout. Like England have nothing in the middle order. No, they seem to have no backbone
No,
in the middle order,
nothing.
and which is absolutely
Absolutely.
surprising because you have guys like Stokes, you have guys like Root, Butler, Moeen Ali, Livingstone. These are good batters. I don't know what's going on at this point.
Yeah, so if we talk about that, Iron Morgan, who was the captain of their World Cup winning squad, and especially the guy who started the resurgence of English cricket post 2015, he said that he thinks there's something going on in the team, behind closed doors within the team environment. Matthew Mott and Chris Wokes said they're not aware or they don't think that any of that is the case. What do you feel like especially for them to not chase 230? England is not a team that we've known, and especially the last 8 years, that they're not a team that can't chase 230. Even if they're 65 for five, you back them to chase 230. With the
Absolutely.
batting depth and with the ability that they have in their squad. So where do you think it's going wrong? I think confidence is a big issue, but what else where is really going wrong for them?
One of the things that I have been talking about like a broken record, I've been repeating it again and again. England haven't maintained their intensity and hunger in ODI cricket since winning the World Cup.
Yeah,
It's almost as if they forgot about the tournament until the very last minute and then it was too late.
yeah.
Even though they have been winning matches, they were very successful in the Super League, but again, the intensity just wasn't there. They,
And Super
you have
League,
to
a lot of the matches, like their second string players played, right? Uh,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
You remember that series against Pakistan, the one where they
yeah,
completely whitewashed Pakistan?
yeah.
Only Ben Stokes from the main squad was there, no one else.
No
And
one
Ben
else.
Stokes was there pretty much by accident.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And you
So
remember that series against Netherlands, again, a series we couldn't really take seriously because
it was played at Rotterdam, small boundaries. People are scoring like 450 plus and stuff like that. It's just, yeah, it's just all over the place. If we start with India's batting, this is the first time they've batted. Like you said, they've batted first on a track. Few wickets. It seemed like England really had a plan for the short ball, especially Virat Kohli and Shreyas Iyer. And also KL Rahul ran down the track almost. It was a good length, but it just rose a bit and straight up. So is that a plan going forward? A lot of teams can look at against this India batting lineup.
yes, but you also need to have that pace and bounce to
Pace,
back
yeah,
you up.
yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, you're just gonna give away half trackers, and it's easy picking for batsmen of that
That
caliber.
class, yeah. No,
So it's
Shreyas
it's a
Iyer
solid
definitely
plan.
means Shreyas Iyer definitely seems like he struggles against the short ball. So do they
Does
continue
does
with him, or is it might be when Hardik is what's it called, injury free, he's recovered. It, is he taking the position of Suresh Iyer now that Surya Kumar has not gotten a 50?
Surya has a score behind his back now. I don't think he got 50 though, but
No, no,
he
no,
has a
50.
pretty good
Yeah,
score.
49,
I think
49, right?
49. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a solid
yeah,
score
yeah,
in difficult conditions. So we got to count that for something. I'm still not sure how much they'll trust Surya Kumar Yadav in the important matches to take that responsibility. Again, Surya Kumar Yadav doesn't exactly come with the best of ODI forms. He did have a good series against Australia, but if we count the Asia
Yeah,
Cup or any other series before that, he was struggling, and it looked like Sanju Samson was going to be the better choice of the two. Surya Kumar Yadav was sort of selected as this X factor player who can come in at number 6 and do the demolition job towards the end.
yeah,
So whether they trust him or not to be that proper number 5 or even number 4, time will tell. But as of right now, yeah, if I were Shreyas Iyer, if I were a Shreyas Iyer fan, of course I've always enjoyed his game. I
yeah,
would be worried.
yeah,
They have options. They also have Ishan Kishan, so
yeah.
it's not like they don't have options.
No, no,
I
yeah.
would be
They have
worried.
a spare batter in the squad. Um, that especially it's concerning because um this might be the third time he's gotten out to the short ball this World Cup. Um, and out of 6 games, if half of the games you're getting out to a single type of delivery, we talked about yesterday, Bangladesh, one of the most dependable batters, he has a clear weakness that has not been resolved. Similarly, if you have a batter in your middle order who has a clear weakness that's not been resolved, teams are going to prey on that. Word about Rohit Sharma, one of his best innings, probably, in a
Has to be.
tricky wicket, very tricky wicket.
It's similar to the century he got in 2019 against South Africa.
Yeah.
I think Virat Kohli called it the best innings he's seen from Rohit, and this one's similar. Again, Rohit in ICC tournaments is a different breed. Like in a bilateral series on such tricky wickets, you expect someone like Shreyas Iyer to step up. You expect
Yeah.
someone like KL Rahul to step up. It's not always Rohit Sharma who does it in those situations. But when it comes to ICC tournaments, Rohit has this wide range to his game,
Yeah.
which is the most impressive part about his World Cup success. It's not just that he's scoring on flat wickets. No, he
No,
can score
no,
on almost
no.
any wicket against any bowling attack. He just needs to prove himself in the knockout games. I think that's the only question which remains.
Yeah, I think even for this India squad as a whole, that is probably their biggest mental block is a playoff game. So KL Rahul again, better runs in the middle order, really steadied this ship with Rohit Sharma. Looks a better and matured batter in the middle order nowadays. And I think, do you think that his keeping responsibility that comes with it and also being a senior player now at the stage he is helping him improve his game now?
Absolutely. I mean, KL, since he started batting at number 5, this was back in what, late 2019.
Yeah,
They float him around from time to time, but the management has realized that number 5, KL is really good.
yeah,
And he's one of those guys who can play basically any role that's required at that position.
yeah.
So they are going to persist with him. Keeping has obviously helped, and he's actually a very good keeper. I know most don't rate
He's
him
been,
as
I
high.
mean, this guy's flying around like he's freaking 16 or 17, catching deliveries on his left, especially on his left, which is quite impressive. And like keeping is a role that is always challenging against spinners, and the way he's been keeping against Kuldeep Yadav, exceptional. He's almost to the line every ball. I mean, he is always. Yeah, I mean,
And
this
also the fact that he had basically half a season this IPL as Lucknow's captain kind
captain.
of helps him perform in
Yeah,
Lucknow, that's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, that's the only franchise tournament you're allowed to mention in the commentary. So, nothing else is allowed in the commentary. But yeah, I mean, for a guy who was getting, he would get a really good ball opening the batting, nick off early, and just like it was just looking like he was gonna become another cricketer, not to realize his full potential, something we saw when he made his test debut in Sydney back in 2014, or MCG, I forgot. I think Sydney.
It was
Um
debut MCG, first century
MC
Sydney,
first
something like that.
century was Sydney. Yeah. So David Willey, 2019's forgotten man. Um by far one of their best bowlers at this World Cup.
I suppose, yeah. And again, the left arm angle, the in swing that he brings, the extra bounce from time to time, that all of that combined really helps. Topley was also good to
Yeah.
begin with, but now
Yeah.
that he's injured, Willie has taken up that responsibility and he's done well.
Yeah,
Again, lots of experience behind his back, and yeah, that hunger in him is still there because he wasn't part of that
that
2019 squad.
yeah,
It's very
yeah,
unfortunate because he was basically their best wicket taker at the time.
yeah.
And the only reason why he was
It
dropped
was
is
because
because
Josh
it's
Archer.
Jofra
Yeah,
Archer, and it felt like he was the only bowler at the time who could, who would pretty much specialize with the new ball, whereas everyone else can bowl at any stage
any
of the game.
stage. Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
got him out of the
yeah,
squad, unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. No,
And
I
now he's a
think
much more matured and
unfortunate,
versatile bowler.
unfortunate for him, the World Cup that he is playing at. Um, they've got what, 5 losses and no singular win against Bangladesh. So yeah, that's a tough campaign to be part of, especially after missing out on a World Cup winning one. Adil Rashid to finish off England's bowling. Once again, class apart. Um, since 2015, just time and time again, no matter the conditions, just keeps on delivering.
Finally, England bring him in as the first change rather than
Yeah,
holding him
freaking
back.
the third change or whatever the hell they were doing. I don't know. Like, captaincy as a whole has been questionable. I did think. What's your thoughts on Butler's captaincy in this game? You think they let Rohit get away a little, especially when they had them in under the pump? Even though Rohit didn't really give too many chances, it was a freaking chanceless and flawless innings. But you think they could have put the pressure on a little bit more?
Butler's captaincy before and during the World Cup is just completely different.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel like the same Jos Butler by any means. He feels like he's literally disinterested to be here in India right now,
yeah,
which is very un-Butler like at this moment. And as for Rohit, no, it's hard. It's going to be too harsh to say that no, he
yeah,
should have
yeah,
done more to
yeah.
attack Rohit because Rohit is that sort of a player. Once he gets set, he's mentioned it in an interview himself that once he gets set, he knows that no bowler can
No,
get him
get
out.
him out.
Only
Yeah,
he can make
he
a
gets him
mistake and
out.
get
He
himself out, which
exactly.
is literally what happened.
Yeah, yeah,
Liam Livingstone took a good catch in deep mid wicket. That
yeah,
was difficult.
yeah. So, yeah. I mean, if we wanna venture off into talking about England's batting, they did look like they were getting a good start, 30 for naught, and then everything just fell like nine pins.
What is that? I don't even get what's happening at this point. You get the first wicket and
It's
that's
like
it.
these guys.
That's the game.
No, yeah, like Root walks in. He walked so far across the line from the stumps. He had no clue where his off stump was. Head falling over, lit, wrapped on the pads in front of the stumps. That review, some controversy around the review. Some blokes think that he nicked it. I was like, if he nicked it, he would have reviewed right away. He was just waiting for uh Johnny Bairstow to give him a notification. I mean, like an indication that you should review. And it was more in the hopes that something would come up or it would just slide down the leg side or something. But he was like completely plumb. But before I talk about any dismissal, anything, Stokes, please tell me something. What is going on?
You
Shami
don't
probably set
bring
him up in one of the most Glenn McGrath fashions ever.
ever. And Shami has been fantastic this World Cup. Shami has an overall amazing World Cup track record, by
Oh
the way,
yeah. Yeah.
2015, 2019, now this. A lot of
For
fans
him to
were
not play
angry in
those first
2019.
4 games is crazy. The way he's now played two back to back. Yeah.
But here's the predicament that India are going to face eventually. Shami's performing well. Bumrah's performing well. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get to that
Yeah.
Ben
Yeah.
Stokes
Yeah.
point,
No,
but
no,
Shami
no, no.
Bumrah performing
Yeah.
well. Siraj has had a brilliant time in ODI cricket for almost 2 years now.
Yeah. Who do you drop?
The batting is still very thin and the
Yeah.
tail is still too long. What do they do about it? That is definitely going to be a question.
Yeah.
Mohammad Shami, I am sorry, Mohammad Shami is an amazing bowler. He is not good enough to be a number eight.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
isn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is definitely something India will need to
And
address.
today is one
Whether
day
the
where
answer is
they
Shardul Thakur, Ravichandran Ashwin, I don't know, but it has to be one of them basically
yeah.
at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially today, it was exposed. The lower middle order was exposed. If Surya didn't get going, like his track record in ODI says, if he didn't get going today, they could have been bundled for 280s or something. I mean, 180 or something, right? Much easily. But yeah, I mean,
As for Ben
Stokes,
Stokes,
yeah,
it's just fitness at this point. Like he's not 100% fit. We've seen this in Test cricket as well. His captaincy doesn't get affected, but when he's struggling to bowl, he's not the same batter either,
yeah,
if that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Ben Stokes is a very completely packaged cricketer. You get the full package or you get very
Nothing.
little of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Or nothing in that
yeah.
case, in some
And
cases.
even when he was
That is
running
what Ben
running
Stokes
in the
is.
outfield, he just looked like he was moving very gingerly, not really there. Not the Stokes that we know. And yeah, like he did not read what Shami was gonna do to him at all. Tried to run down the wicket a couple times, didn't connect it, and then literally just missed everything. He opened up too early, just tried to hoik across the line, stayed a little low, but amazing in swing delivery to get him. But yeah, Butler, Malan, Bairstow, Root, out of those guys, no one clicked. Can you
They're
can
starting to look
if
like
someone
those
told you that
T20
before the World Cup,
sloggers.
would you
Just say
believe it?
someone just picked them and threw them into ODI cricket. That's not what they are.
Yeah,
They have the proper game for ODI cricket. I don't know why it's just not coming out. I really don't know what's going on.
it just seems like they had two World Cup wins in what last 4 years. You put the T20 World Cup in the with that. It's just I don't know, like it's the same set of guys. There's no reason for them not to click even in one game out of 6 games. At the position they're in. One thing I wanted to touch on, the coach said he only found out 90 minutes before about the Champions Trophy qualification criteria. We've talked about the qualification criteria for the Champions League for about 2 weeks. How does someone who's part of the camp not know?
Because there wasn't an official announcement.
Ah,
Some
okay.
forms of communication in cricket have left a lot
Lot
to be
desired. Yes.
deserve to
It's
be desired.
yeah.
It is like again, Matthew Mott could have done better to reach out and get the confirmation, but we have to remember Champions Trophy qualifications never happened like this before.
Mm,
We saw it in 2015. It was completely ranking based. We remember that series Bangladesh had to win
had to
against South
win
Africa, or
exactly.
it was
Yeah.
just one match that they definitely had to win
Yeah.
against South Africa in 2015. It didn't
Yeah.
depend on the World Cup results. Bangladesh
No.
were in the top eight, but
Yeah.
it didn't matter.
No.
Because
Yeah.
if it did, England wouldn't have played the 2017 Champions Trophy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So those things didn't matter back then. So that system has changed. They don't go over rankings anymore. They go over the World Cup performance. Do you think that is the best form of selection?
That's not, because now you're taking West Indies, you're taking Zimbabwe, you're taking Ireland out of the equation. Do they deserve to be in that place where they're not even in contention for another ODI tournament because they weren't part of the World Cup? Because this World Cup is a 10-team tournament. That is not fair to them. If you're gonna make a Champions Trophy of 8 teams, why are you making a World Cup of 10 teams? And if your World Cup is going to be your qualification criteria for your Champions Trophy, then your World Cup should definitely be having double number of teams. So this is definitely not fair. And one of the tweets I saw is, you give out so many ODI statuses after the Challenge League and all those League Two and all those things happen, and teams like USA, Canada, Netherlands, Ireland, they've got Netherlands, they've gotten not Ireland. Ireland's a full member nation, but they've gotten ODI status for a 4-year cycle, but they have nothing to really play for in that 4-year cycle, except a World Cup qualification at the very end of it. So you're talking about keeping ODI cricket relevant and things like that. This is not the way to do it, unfortunately.
Whole World Cup to World Cup mantra isn't gonna work.
It's not gonna
That
work.
never
No,
works.
it never works. And it's
They
just
talk
gonna
about football having that, but football doesn't have that. I don't know who gave them this information. Football doesn't have that. Football has proper international schedules, by the way.
every
I
month
don't know
they
who
have
needs
an
to tell them.
international break for about 2 weeks. They
It's
have
just not as
as
glamorous. So
glamorous,
no one
exactly.
watches it
Yeah,
as much.
yeah, exactly. So um last thing that we should probably be discussing is India's bowling. One of their best bowling attacks ever.
Oh,
by a
absolutely.
far shot.
And the problem that they had been facing for a while was Jasprit Bumrah's injury. Jasprit
Yeah,
Bumrah is absolutely irreplaceable. I know
yeah.
Mohammad Siraj is probably the highest ranked bowler right now in
But
that team, but
Bumrah
Bumrah
was
is
missing
Bumrah.
for a
Bumrah is
while.
just something
Exactly.
else.
Yeah, yeah,
And to have Kuldeep perform, that's always a huge plus point because even today, not a lot of teams have left arm wrist spinners just waiting in the wings. So a
yeah.
lot of batters still feel uncomfortable against that.
So India, they're bowling with five, especially they only have five options to bowl with, but they're doing the job perfectly. Other teams have maybe a problem of plenty where they are using seven, eight bowlers sometimes. Do you think that's an advantage they have, or might it be a disadvantage going into the later stages of the tournament?
I mean, they're not letting it be a disadvantage at this
Yeah,
point. The bowlers have been just beyond clinical. It's hard to find a word to describe a near perfect bowling attack that we're
yeah,
seeing right now.
yeah,
Even against New Zealand, their quote unquote worst day, they saved probably what at least 30 runs towards the end.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So that is just phenomenal. Mohammad Shami, when Mohammad Shami is performing, this is why India have been so successful as a bowling unit in World Cups, even before Bumrah in 2015. I
yeah,
think in 8 matches they picked up a total of 77 wickets, which is amazing, by the
yeah.
way.
Basically,
So
3 wickets away from yeah, yeah,
the three
yeah.
wickets were only missed in the last match against Australia, and that's
Australia.
the one they
Yeah,
lost.
yeah,
So
yeah,
with Mohammad Shami, that's the best thing about Mohammad Shami. Him coming into the World Cup, he always performs well. He takes a lot of pressure away from Jasprit Bumrah, and he can just do his own thing. He can nail the Yorkers. He can put in the variations, and Mohammad Shami is just coming in, setting up the batters, bowling raw pace and bounce whenever needed. So
yeah.
it's just perfect for India right now.
And last thing, Kuldeep Yadav's resurgence. Ball of the tournament probably to Josh Butler. 7.2 degrees turn. Um, but how much has his resurgence in ODI cricket, or even like just coming back to Indian cricket, has played a massive part in India not having to go with two finger spinners every game?
Absolutely. I mean, on one hand, no need to play two finger spinners. On the other hand, Yuzvendra Chahal. I am a big fan of Yuzvendra Chahal, but the
Yeah,
problem is teams tend to pick and read right arm wrist spinners
listen.
far better than they do their left hand arm
Yes,
counterparts.
yes,
And that is the advantage you always get with Kuldeep Yadav. Like I
yeah,
said before, not a lot of teams have left arm wrist spinners. I'm sorry, I
yeah.
don't know why my headset is just falling off.
That's
But
okay.
I
It's okay. We
a
have
lot of teams
KKGS in Bangladesh nets. But
Bangladesh, I mean, wrist spin, I mean, we might as well just give up at this point.
just
Like,
give up.
that
Yeah.
ship has sailed.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
gone. But yeah, yeah, as I was saying, the whole thing with Kuldeep Yadav, that awkward angle that he presents, and he's that kind of a bowler. He's always learning. Whenever he makes mistakes in one match, once you take the attack to him, he does get a little flustered, but then he's gonna come back in the next match as a completely different bowler. He's like that. He sort of has that Terminator tendency.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
Harbhajan Singh was given the name of Terminator, but this guy, Kuldeep Yadav, he shows more Terminator
More
tendencies in that regard.
100%. 100%. Um, Big game tomorrow. Afghanistan, Sri Lanka. Both have a lot to play for. But before we go and, wait for that match to start in what, 6 hours or so, final predictions for how India and England might end up by the end of the tournament.
England are struggling. I think they have, in terms of, teams you can possibly beat, I think they have one match against the Netherlands, and we know how well Netherlands are performing right now, and
Yeah,
B, we also know what England's ICC tournament records are
records are
against Netherlands.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
I don't think they will be all that confident.
Yeah,
I expect them to probably finish bottom two unless that, little piece of information that was given to Matthew Mott suddenly makes him realize, no, we can't just miss a major ICC tournament.
tournament. Yeah, yeah,
Unless
yeah,
that happens, I don't
yeah,
see them making the top eight. I think them and Bangladesh, they're going to be the two teams that miss out at this
yeah,
rate.
yeah.
As for India, guaranteed number one position. I'm not even saying top two, I'm saying number one position
Number one.
guaranteed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, as we said towards the middle of the video, their main challenge at this point would be to make sure they are just, prepared and have all boxes covered for the knockout games, because that's been their kryptonite in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
They need to
Yeah.
get that fixed, and they're winning the World Cup. I don't
Yeah.
favorites at this point. Red hot
The
favorites.
third star over the crest. Go
Third
to
star.
sleep.
And deservedly so again.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
no major controversies this time.
No.
Deservedly so. There's
Just
just nothing
far
to
and
complain.
wide the better team, without any doubt. In terms of the context of the World Cup. Yeah. Yeah. So
Delhi still far away. Like
yeah.
like we say in Bangla,
Yeah.
Delhi ekhano bahut dur, so
Uh-huh.
Delhi still far away, but again, not too far
Not too
away.
far away. Yeah. 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 So we'll be back tomorrow with Afghanistan, Sri Lanka. Till then, stay tuned to Bagrata.